And in that context, I think, and Leo, please correct me, I would appreciate if you're using the hand raising if you have some questions. And let's say you can start with your questions to ask now.
We have a couple recorded questions from the chat that I'm going to relay now.
Yes, please.
So starting chronologically, Rolf Dar, our new IGS governing board acting chair, asked to David Ibanez, when will the inter-satellite link measurements be publicly made available?
Thank you for the question. It's difficult to say today because, as I mentioned in the presentation, the G2 satellites are now still in preliminary design review. We still need to launch 10 satellites from the first generation. So the second generation satellites are still, I mean, there is no consolidated schedule. It will be in a few years. And then, of course, to start using this capability for ISL, you will need to have at least 2 satellites. So it's difficult to say. Today there is no, but of course it's not something imminent.
Mhm.
Hope this
Yes.
answers the question.
Rolf, feel free to raise your hand or post in the chat if not. But thank you, Dr. Ibanez. Next, we have 2 questions or feedback for Dr. Fernandez. One from Juan Pablo Castillo, inviting you to give a talk in La Universidad Nacional de Córdoba in Argentina. You might be wanting to be in contact together. This is more.
That's correct. We will handle it offline. Thanks.
And then one from Dr. Kiamule Sir. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. Who asked, why is the HAS accuracy in Africa low compared to Asia? And are there any planned tests in the equatorial region of Africa to know how that has behaved, the high accuracy service?
Well, thanks for the question. I don't know if I was clear enough or I understand the question. The what is actually lower in Africa compared to Asia is the error. So probably that's the spirit of the question. So performance is better in Africa than in Asia for what we have seen. And the reason for that is that there is a higher visibility of satellites with stations that we have on ground. So there is a higher what we call depth of coverage in Africa than in Asia, in particular in Eastern Asia. I hope that answers the question. The good news is for what I have seen, what we have seen, and I try to show in the slide, the performance in Africa are not far for compared to the performance we see in Europe, or not that far. And we believe this is good news. And I would like to link that to the second question. Any planned tests in the equatorial region of Africa to know how HAS behaves? I think that's a very interesting initiative. I cannot be very concrete on that, but what I can say is that we are coordinating with our international cooperation director general at the Commission, and who are also coordinating with the Africa, with SECNA and other African authorities for defining a possible demonstrator of HAS in Africa. I cannot be more concrete now, but there are things going on. We know there are receiver manufacturers that are HAS enabled already, and we expect to see more in the next few months. So that de facto, being the signal there and being the receivers available, means that everyone can virtually do a demonstration. As I said, there are initiatives we are launching at the moment, but unfortunately I cannot be more concrete right now. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Again, everyone, please feel free to post questions in chat or raise your hand if you have some feedback. I have one last question that could be for Dr. Fernandez or Dr. Lucci, perhaps coming from a non-expert. But you mentioned it's on the OSNMA. How easy is it for manufacturers worldwide to make their receivers OSNMA compatible? Is it more a software issue, or is it more difficult in terms of also hardware?
Well, if David allows me to, let me take initially this question, and then David, you can complement if needed. That is a very good question, and it has been thoroughly discussed with manufacturers. Not because we don't know, but because there are some subtleties and some, difficulties in explaining. So essentially, we can say that it is a firmware update. So all the cryptographic part can be updated just in a new firmware version, which is relatively simple. We are talking about the cryptographic material that anchors everything that comes in the signal in space, that is public, and it does not require any extra hardware. However, I didn't talk about that explicitly, but it's also an important point. When I show the steps for authenticating the data, there is one step related to waiting until receiving the key associated to the MAC. And in order to ensure that that the key and the MAC are correct, the receiver needs to have an external synchronization source in the order of or better than 30 seconds, because otherwise an attacker could falsify the MAC by having the key in advance. So this external synchronization is up to the receiver to obtain in the way they see best. They can use real-time clocks with, let's say, moderate accuracy, because we are talking about an offset of seconds. They can have an assistance channel, a combination of those. It's mainly their issue. And this indeed requires something beyond a firmware update. Just to finish on the question, because as I said, it's a good question to complement what I said on OSNMA. There is a functioning mode of OSNMA that allows to relax this time accuracy to something in the order of 5 minutes. And this goes with what we call slow max. And thanks to this slow max, as we call them, we can allow OSNMA to work in receivers with a time accuracy that is in the order of 5 minutes. And we believe that by this relaxation, we can make OSNMA available to virtually any receiver.
Yeah, thank you for that. It is one a very exciting perspective, but also I can only assume that it will reach its full power if it's accessible to more, well, worldwide, and therefore more manufacturers. Maybe a follow-up, maybe for Dr. Ibanez. Sorry, Dr. Lucci. How many manufacturers? I saw that you had a list of manufacturers that already implement that. What is the current distribution worldwide of manufacturers and users that can already take advantage of this feature?
Thanks for the question. I would say that the manufacturers, the list I was providing in the presentation could be appearing quite short, but it's again quite complex because of the different, I would say, situation, and that's why I take the opportunity for those that are interested in looking at some more details related to the applications, related to the market segments that, by the way, are continuously evolving, is to go and read to download and read the report, the Market Earth Observation Galileo report, because we are going to publish an updated version, hopefully by the end of this year. So going through it, you will detect the evolution in terms of segmentation, in terms of companies, in terms of users in general. So I have not, let me say, a very precise answer right now, but I think that there in this document you can find not only some of the answers that the listener is looking for, but also this could be triggering to the evaluation of some aspects from a different perspective. So I think it will be quite interesting to read it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. We have another question in chat. Do you want to ask it live since you might be here? I can relay it, of course, as well. I think for now I will just relay it.
Leo, just go. Otherwise, we
Yeah,
just
it's
go
again
for it.
from Bruno Chiamunesir. I don't exactly know who it is directed to. Most likely, Dr. Fernandez. How can one identify the HAS satellites from the first Galileo satellites? I do think that it's not a satellite dependent thing, the high accuracy system. Another part of the question is, for CNO-GNSS, which base year of the receivers should one consider to buy? And he says that I have receivers manufactured in 2020.
Okay, so I will try to answer. As you said, Leo, the satellites are the same. We are just using a message that was already, let's say, or some space that was already available in the signals to transmit the hash corrections. I guess the essence of the question is how can I ensure that I use Galileo satellites, HAS satellites in my receiver. At the moment, so HAS, as I said, has been declared very recently, and so HAS compatible receivers in the market are starting to appear. So if we are talking about professional receivers processing the E6 band directly, the one at 1278 megahertz, we believe this may take a while because this requires a new hardware if the receiver was not E6 enabled. And we expect that over the course of the year there will be receivers that in their specification they will announce that they are HAS compatible and they can process HAS autonomously. Now, if we are talking about the assisted HAS service, so the corrections channel provided by what we call the IDD, the Internet Data Distribution Channel, in an RTCM-like format, NTRIP-like protocol, then it is easier, and this may be available through a software update. But again, I think it has to be the receiver specification that will confirm whether the receiver has enabled or not. So we really expect that over the course of the year there will be products in the market, both assisted and standalone, that are HAS enabled and are announced. So the user community is clear about how and where to purchase a HAS receiver.
Okay.
So I think Ignacio, this was spot on, and now we are also spot on with time. So I propose that we're making a 10 minutes break and then restarting with Francisco Gonzalez. Okay, so we will reconvene in 10 minutes.